Most riders either swear by engine additives or swear at them. You've got the snake oil crowd pushing magic potions that promise to make your bike run like Valentino Rossi's. And then you got the purists yelling, "Just change your oil and shut up." And honestly, they're not totally wrong. But here's the truth. Some additives do work, if you know what you're doing. And some, they'll destroy your engine faster than a cold red line. So today, we're drawing a line. No hype, no sponsored crap, just real-world truth from someone who's seen engines lived at 200,000 miles and engines die in under 10 because of one stupid bottle. Let's start with the ones that actually earn a spot on your shelf. Number 1. Fuel injector cleaner with PEA. Let's get one thing straight. Most fuel system cleaners are trash. They're overpriced alcohol water with a fancy label and zero science behind them. But the ones that actually contain PEA, that's polyethylamine, are the real deal. PEA is a detergent that can actually break down carbon buildup in your injectors, intake valves, and combustion chamber. And no, it's not some overnight miracle. It works over time, especially if you ride regularly and use it every few thousand miles. It's basically like brushing your teeth for your fuel system. The key? Don't just grab whatever's cheapest. Most gas station cleaners have barely a trace of PEA, or none at all. Brands like Techron, Redline, or AMSOIL's cleaner actually have the concentration you need. If it doesn't say PEA, don't waste your cash. I've known guys who used real injector cleaner once a season and saw improved throttle response and smoother idle on fuel-injected bikes. And if you ride something older with tight injector tolerances, like a mid-2000s Yamaha or Suzuki, this stuff can actually save you from pulling the rail and sending it out for ultrasonic cleaning. So yes, it works. If you use the right stuff and don't expect miracles in a bottle. Number 2. Engine oil Moly additive, low concentration. Here's a controversial one. Molybdenum disulfide, aka Moly, in your engine oil. Some riders swear by it, others scream clutch slip and run for the hills. So what's the truth? Moly reduces metal-to-metal contact. That's great for reducing friction and wear, especially under high stress or heat. It's used in race engines, industrial machinery, even aircraft engines. But here's the catch. It can mess with your wet clutch, if your clutch shares oil with your engine. So if your bike has a separate transmission and clutch system, like a BMW Boxer, a Goldwing, or older Moto Guzzi's, Moly additives can be a legit upgrade. Reduced engine drag, better high temp protection, and smoother operation under load. But if your engine, gearbox, and clutch share oil, as most modern bikes do, then it's a gamble. Even a small amount of Moly can reduce friction where you actually want it, like in your clutch plates. And suddenly that slippery clutch isn't so fun. So here's the rule. Know your bike's oiling system. On the right machine, a properly dosed Moly additive, 1 to 2%, can extend engine life and quiet things down. On the wrong one, you'll be Googling, "Why does my clutch slip?" in about 20 minutes. Use it wisely, or not at all. Number 3. ZDDP, zinc additive for flat tappets. If you got an older engine, especially something vintage, custom built, or with flat tappets, you better get familiar with ZDDP. That's zinc dialkylthiophosphate, but all you need to remember is zinc equals survival. Back in the day, zinc was a normal part of oil formulations. It acted as a sacrificial barrier on metal parts, especially those old-school flat tappet cams that don't roll, they slide. Without it, you're scraping metal on metal and watching your cam lobes get eaten alive. But thanks to emissions regulations and catalytic converter concerns, modern oils have way less zinc than they used to. That's fine for modern engines with roller cams and low-pressure valve trains, but if you're running an old CB750, a 70s Triumph, or any backyard-built chopper with a vintage lump, low zinc oil is a death sentence. That's where ZDDP additives come in. A small bottle added to your oil change can bring those zinc levels back to where they should be for your motor. Just don't overdo it. Too much zinc can mess with catalytic converters and create ash buildup. And no, high mileage oil from Walmart won't cut it. If your bike was built before the 90s or you're running an aggressive cam setup, ZDDP isn't an option. It's a lifeline. Protect your lobes, keep your tappets happy, and remember, old engines don't die from wear, they die from neglect. Number 4. Octane boosters for high compression builds. Let's make something clear right away. Most octane boosters on the shelf at your local parts store are total garbage. Fancy labels, fire graphics, bold promises. Zero actual effect. But if you're running a high compression engine, a proper octane booster isn't just helpful, it might be the only thing keeping your pistons from melting. See, when your engine's compression is bumped up, either from tuning, big bore kits, or aggressive factory setups like on race replicas, it becomes a lot more sensitive to pre-ignition, also known as knock. That nasty rattle you sometimes hear? That's not performance, it's your engine trying to destroy itself from the inside out. That's where real octane boosters come in, the kind with methyl cyclopentadienyl manganese tricarbonyl. Yeah, try saying that 5 times fast. These aren't magic potions, they're chemistry. They actually raise the octane level enough to resist knock, especially when high-octane pump gas isn't cutting it. But again, it only makes sense if your engine needs it. Using race-grade octane booster in your bone stock Ninja 400 is like putting race fuel in a lawnmower. It won't hurt much, but it sure as hell won't help either. Use it when you've tuned your motor to the edge, when your bike's running hotter than your ego, or when you're pushing things beyond what pump gas can handle. Otherwise, save your money. Because real riders don't chase snake oil, they know when a bottle actually earns its keep. Number 5. Coolant additives. Water, wetter style. This one's for the folks riding in traffic jams on 100-degree days, or dragging knees at the track until their engine temp gauge looks like a countdown to detonation. Coolant additives, like Redline's Water Wetter, aren't some miracle elixir, but they do work, especially in liquid-cooled bikes that run hot under pressure. The science is simple. These additives reduce the surface tension of water, helping it make better contact with metal surfaces inside your cooling system. That means better heat transfer, lower temps, and a lower chance of your bike overheating when it matters most. Now, don't expect magic. We're talking a drop of 10 to 20 degrees, not turning your bike into a cryo chamber. But on older sport bikes or modern bikes that run hot from the factory, that margin can be the difference between running strong and pulling over to let her cool down. And if you're on the track, some race organizations require non-glycol coolant, and products like Water Wetter let you ditch antifreeze while still protecting your cooling system and keeping temps in check. Just remember, these don't replace coolant, they supplement it. Use them right, and your engine just might thank you by not spitting hot steam in your face on a summer ride. Number 6. Fuel stabilizer for long-term storage. If you store your bike for the winter and don't use a fuel stabilizer, you're basically volunteering to rebuild your carbs in the spring. Modern fuel, especially ethanol blended junk, goes bad fast. We're talking a couple of months before it starts gumming things up like molasses in a carburetor bowl. A good stabilizer like Sta-Bil or Startron keeps the fuel fresh, prevents varnish buildup, and saves you from that classic springtime nightmare. Crank, cough dead. Or worse, flooded carbs, stuck floats, and clogged injector. Here's a key though. Don't just dump it in the tank and walk away. Run the engine for a few minutes after adding it so the treated fuel actually gets into the carb or fuel injector. Otherwise, it's just sitting in your tank looking pretty while your fuel system rots. And even if your bike is fuel injected, don't assume you're safe. Ethanol can still pull in moisture and corrode metal parts, especially in tanks without good ventilation. This stuff is cheap insurance. One tiny bottle can treat gallons of fuel and save you from hours of cleaning, cursing, and blaming your battery when it's actually your rotten fuel causing the headache. If your bike's gonna sit, treat the tank like it's going into hibernation. 'Cause it is. Number 7. Ethanol treatment additives. If your gas station only sells fuel with ethanol, and let's be real, that's most of them, then your bike is already getting a slow poison drip. Ethanol might work fine in a modern car, but for motorcycles, especially older ones or anything carbureted, it's a ticking time bomb. Ethanol attracts water. That water settles in your tank, corrodes metal, and turns your fuel into a nasty sludge that clogs jets, gums up injectors, and wrecks rubber seals. And if you think premium means ethanol-free, think again. Unless the pump says ethanol-free specifically, you're not safe. That's where ethanol treatment additives come in. Products like Startron enzyme treatment or Lucas Safeguard don't magically remove ethanol, but they do help minimize the damage. They stabilize the fuel, combat corrosion, and help water disperse more evenly so it doesn't pool in places it shouldn't. This isn't something you need with every single fill-up if you ride often, but if your bike sits for more than a couple weeks at a time, or you ride something vintage, these additives are absolutely worth the tiny extra cost. Because once ethanol wrecks your tank lining or your petcock seals, no additive in the world is going to help you. Prevention is everything. You're not just treating the gas, you're protecting every fuel component downstream. Number 8. Transmission oil additives for wet clutches. Here's a category that usually gets ignored but can make a real difference if you know what you're doing. Transmission oil additives designed specifically for wet clutch systems can reduce gear wear, smooth out shifting, and extend component life. But, and this is important, they have to be compatible with wet clutch operation. A lot of riders don't realize that their engine oil is also their transmission fluid in most motorcycles. That means anything you add affects both the engine and the clutch. Some of the best additives here aren't flashy. They're things like anti-wear zinc compounds or mild friction modifiers that don't interfere with clutch engagement. Brands like Motul, Moly, and Amsoil sometimes include these in their premium formulations, but standalone additives exist too. These can be especially useful on high-mileage bikes or older gearboxes that are starting to feel crunchy. Just don't go tossing in random smoothers or snake oil. You need something that's been tested specifically for JASO MA-MA2 standards. Used correctly, these additives can help quiet down noisy shifts and reduce the load on your gearbox over the long haul. Just remember, a tiny bit goes a long way. Dumping in the wrong thing, or too much of the right thing, can turn your clutch into a slip-in nightmare. Bottom line, if your clutch is integrated with your engine oil, treat it with respect. The right additive won't transform your bike, but it can absolutely help it age more gracefully. Now, let's move on to the stuff that should never be in the same room as your bike. Number 1. Thick oil additives. Engine honey. These things are the automotive equivalent of dumping maple syrup into your veins because you think it'll slow your heart rate. Thick oil additives, often branded as engine stabilizers or high-mileage protectors, promise to reduce engine noise, improve oil pressure, and protect your engine. What they actually do is choke your motor's ability to lubricate itself properly. They're usually made from petroleum jelly, heavy base stocks, or straight-up goo. And yeah, they'll quiet down a ticking noise because the lifters can't move freely anymore. It's like throwing a blanket over a smoke alarm instead of putting out the fire. Modern motorcycle engines have tight tolerances, especially in high-revving sport bikes or liquid-cooled machines. When you introduce something with the consistency of glue into those tiny oil passages, you risk starving critical components, like the cam bearings, crank journals, or even the top end. Plus, many of these additives were made with cars in mind and don't play nice with shared engine and clutch systems. I've seen clutches slip like ice rinks and oil filters clog up from this stuff. And if you're in cold weather, good luck getting your starter to turn over with molasses running through your engine. If your engine is knocking or burning oil, fix the issue. Don't try to smother it with this gunk. It's a Band-Aid with a sledgehammer attached. Avoid it like your bike's life depends on it. Because it does. Number 2. Teflon-based oil additives like PTFE. If someone tells you their oil additive has Teflon in it, run. Don't walk in the other direction. Yes, Teflon, like the stuff on your nonstick frying pan. Sounds high-tech, right? Except your engine isn't an omelet. And coating its internals in plastic particles is one of the dumbest things you can do. These additives, often marketed as friction reducers, claim to coat your engine with a slick, low-friction layer to improve performance and longevity. What they don't mention is that PTFE, that's polytetrafluoroethylene, doesn't belong in an oil at all. It doesn't dissolve, it doesn't blend, and it sure as hell doesn't know where to go once it's inside your crankcase. What it does do is clump up. Once it clumps, it clogs oil filters, chokes narrow oil passages, and starves bearings of lubrication. Especially in motorcycles where engine oil often lubricates the gearbox and clutch as well, PTFE particles can cause all kinds of chaos, like slip in clutches and uneven wear on gear teeth. Worse yet, most motorcycle filters are smaller than car filters and aren't designed to handle non-oil particulates floating around. So, by trying to improve your oil with space-age coatings, you're actually sabotaging the very system that keeps your engine alive. Teflon's great for breakfast. It's not great for combustion. Keep it in the kitchen, not the crankcase. Number 3. Slick 50 and other engine coating gimmicks. Ah yes, Slick 50, the snake oil of engine additives. This stuff has been around forever, promising magical results like wear, better fuel economy, and longer engine life, all thanks to a protective coating it supposedly leaves inside your engine. Sounds amazing! Until you realize none of it holds up under scrutiny. Slick 50 and its cousins typically use a mix of PTFE, zinc, and other mystery compounds in a base oil. The marketing is slicker than the product, complete with pseudo-scientific charts and testimonials. But ask any experienced mechanic or engineer, and they'll tell you the same thing. There's no measurable benefit, and in some cases, there's real risk. The coatings don't actually bond to engine parts in any reliable way, and the additives can interfere with normal oil circulation. Worse, they sometimes react badly with modern oil detergents and friction modifiers, causing sludge buildup, filter clogging, or reduced lubrication at high temps. On motorcycles, especially ones with wet clutches and shared engine transmission oil, these additives can absolutely wreak havoc. You might end up with clutch slippage, fouled internals, and reduced oil flow in critical areas. Bottom line, if engine coatings really worked, every bike manufacturer on the planet would be using them. But they don't. Because they don't work. Save your money, skip the magic juice, and spend that cash on real maintenance instead. Number 4. Universal Octane boosters in low compression bikes. Here's a classic rookie move, grabbing a cheap bottle of Octane booster from the gas station shelf and dumping it into your tank like it's some kind of race fuel potion. Spoiler alert, if your bike doesn't actually need higher octane, all you're doing is spending money to make your gas smell weird. Most modern bikes, especially smaller or lower compression engines, are tuned to run perfectly fine on regular pump gas. Unless your manual specifically calls for 91 plus octane, adding a booster isn't just useless, it can sometimes be harmful. Cheap universal octane boosters often contain manganese, aromatic hydrocarbons, and alcohol-based solvents that can gum up your fuel system, corrode lines, and foul plugs over time. And here's the kicker. Most of these products don't even raise octane enough to matter. You're lucky if a full bottle bumps it by half a point, and even then, it's not always a clean burn. Worst case scenario, you're running a bike that's designed for 87 on a cocktail of chemicals it doesn't need, and that's not high performance. It's just unnecessary risk. So unless you've got a high compression build, aggressive timing, or some kind of race-tuned ECU, leave the booster on the shelf. Your engine isn't knocking. You just got suckered by fancy packaging and vague promises. Additives are like tools. Some are game changers. Others are just gimmicks wrapped in shiny labels and bad science. The right ones can extend your engine life, boost performance, and save you real money. But the wrong ones? They'll clog, corrode, and kill your bike while convincing you they're doing the opposite. So here's the takeaway. Know what your bike actually needs. Don't fall for snake oil. Don't trust anything that says works in any engine or sounds too good to be true, because it probably is. And hey, what's the weirdest additive you've ever used or seen someone use? Snake venom, used coffee, Marvel mystery oil in the brake fluid? Let me know in the comments. I've seen some wild stuff, and I'm sure you have too.